Alright, so it's come time to replace the grip on my ringed Reginier here. I really liked the way that I did the last one, so I'm making a video of it because I've seen lots of posts about, you know, this process. So the first thing I did was I prepped my surface by sanding off all the old crap and cutting off all the previous grip. And then I stained it with black just because I knew that the handle was going to be showing through bits of where the cord doesn't exactly match up. I'm going to be wrapping in Paracord. I don't remember the exact weight, but the process won't differ any other than you'll probably use more of it. So the first thing that you'll need is you'll need to actually make yourself a couple of tools. So the first thing that I have here is this little bit of wire that I bent into this P shape or lowercase d shape, whatever. And then I have a little piece of baling wire here that I'm going to use to attach this to the very base of the handle. Now you want the little loop to be just past the pommel. And this piece of wire here, all that it's really doing is just serving to hold it in place very loosely. We don't really need too much grip here. We just need to hold it in place for when we get the wrapping down to the down to the pommel. All right, that's enough there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to use is we're going to use super glue to attach our cord just a few inches down by the shilt. So my paracord here, in this delightful red, I have pulled out a little bit of the inner core and snipped it, and then I did the same thing at the very other end, and then I pulled it taut so that it went back in. You can completely pull the core out if you want a thinner handle, but my big mitts and my giant gloves prefer something more substantial to hold on to. So let's do this. Now you have to think about the direction that you want to rotate this. I'm going to be turning the pommel with my right hand, and I'm going to be guiding it with my left. So I'm going to fold this 90 degrees to the left, and then stick this on the super glue. Now if you've used super glue before, you'll know it's notoriously likely to act like complete chaos and not even grip the thing. Let's try this again. If you get your skin on the super glue, it will adhere instantaneously, which would be really nice if it would share that property with other materials, but it is what it is. Okay, that appears to be adhering. So I'm going to let that finish curing, and I'll be back in a few. So now that our super glue is good and dry, the next part of this involves this two-part resin epoxy. The brand I'm using here is Loctite, but there are other brands like Gorilla Glue, etc. They all work in the same way. They're just you know, two different liquids that you need to mix them together. I've taken the liberty of pre-mixing it in this old medicine cup. We're going to be putting a very thin layer of this along the entire handle, and we want to make sure not to get it on our skin, so that's why I'm wearing gloves here. You don't need too much, and it's easy to have too much. When we begin wrapping the cord around, it'll become very obvious if we have too much, as it will begin bubbling up between the cords. So I'm going to get this done. I'm just using a palette knife here to spread it. It's a handy tool back from my days in art school. Now this one is the 60-minute variety. I have used the 5-minute for this process as well. It works, just fine if you're going to get it done very quick. The amount of time that it says that it sets in is not its entire curing time, but it does mean that after that amount of time, you pretty much won't be able to mess around with it or shift anything, but it will still need more time to cure. Okay, we don't actually need to get any glue on that clip that we placed at the very end. What we're going to use that for is to pull the cord through back underneath the wrap that we've done in order to secure it. And it is a much better way of securing it than it is to tie it. Now the reason why I like to glue the grip down is because should you have the unfortunate events of blocking or parrying with the handle, that can sever the leather cord or whatever you wrapped around it. And in that case, if you haven't glued it down, it will just simply unravel, and that's just a bad time. So my wife is on the other end of this sword helping me out here. I definitely do recommend like a spouse or a roommate or something to help you out. A friend of me will do in a pinch, but I definitely cannot recommend a nemesis. You also definitely want to do this in a well-ventilated area, like garage with the door open or just straight up outside, as it can be pretty noxious. There's a light breeze going on here, so that's convenient. Yeah, I'm going to remove some from here too. Alright, that looks good to go. So I'm going to have my assistant here hold the tip and not let it wiggle around as I rotate this pommel so as to not knock the camera over and end up with a horrible catastrophe. So I'm just going to apply some gentle pressure. Well, that sucks. That doesn't matter though. I'm just going to carry on as if that didn't happen. I'm just going to apply some gentle pressure here and use that to rotate this grip here and get that bit caught under. Once we get it caught under and we get 2 rotations, it should hold just fine. Now if you get a little bit of the resin epoxy on the cord itself on the outside, that's not really going to be much of a problem. You can just, smush it in there and it will just provide an extra level of grippiness to your grip. So all in all, this grip on this Regagné here will take about 16 to 18 feet of this cord. If you're using a thinner cord, obviously it's going to take more. So I'm letting this ride on my knuckle here in order to avoid touching the glue too much. I'm sure that if you took your time and were less impatient than I, you'd be able to get this done without getting any of the epoxy on the outside. Okay, so I'm approaching this clip over here. And what I'm going to do is when I get to just past where the clip ends, I'm going to do one more revolution. Okay, I'm then going to push the clip in the path of the wrap, right? And I'm going to start wrapping it over the clip. This is going to do two things. One, it's going to make a little bit of room under there. And two, it's going to start building a path where we will be pulling the remainder of the cord out from underneath. Once I get all the way up there, I'll actually pull off this wire that I put to hold it in place, because now it's being held in place by the cord. And then one more. Back it up just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna push this back over towards this side of me because I want to get another half revolution. Okay, so now I'm going to feed this through this clip here. Okay, and then I'm going to run and grab a pair of pliers. Alright, so I'm going to take this pair of vice grips, which I've set to their minimum setting. I'm just going to grip that bit of the wire here, clamp them down. Now I actually don't need to have this 100% of the way through. I'm actually going to back it up just about an inch, because as I pull it through, it's going to pull more of it with it. And just like, you know, when you're sewing, there we go. So now I can pull the rest of this through. Take my X-acto knife. But first I will rotate it this way to tighten it a bit. And then I'm just going to find that little spot right where it comes out and guide my blade right down between the coils and then sever it. I'm done. So now I'm going to let this cure, well, in reality overnight, but this should be, you know, ready to go in just a couple hours. All right, so that's my process. It's pretty easy. Good luck.